Welcome back to the Rose Festival Medallion Treasure Hunt podcast. You know what? It's go time.
It's go time. So I am Dustin White, and this is my wife, Deidre White.
Hello, hello.
And we are pleased to bring you a special guest today, Rich Jarvis from the Rose Festival Foundation, to chat about the Rose Festival Medallion Hunt. So hi, Rich.
Hi, good day to everybody.
Hey, good day to you too. We've got some questions for you about the Rose Festival and the world-famous treasure hunt. The event that we all
world famous. Huh?
Well, it's okay. Maybe
Kind
not world famous, but I think it's been replicated in a few places, and I know there's been some inspiration. The Rose Festival Medallion was inspired by some other hunts. So yeah, I mean it's a big deal, and it's like especially in the Portland metro area, it's such a staple. You know, it's a
beloved event.
It is. So yeah, we're excited to chat with you a little bit about it. So. Before we get into the Rose Festival Medallion hunt itself, you yourself, are you a Portland native?
No, not Portland native. I'm an Oregonian, fourth generation Oregonian, but
gotcha.
I grew up on the coast.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, very cool.
So you didn't grow up going to the Rose Festival, or did you come into town to do such things?
Yeah. No, I moved into town for professional reasons back in the late 80s, and then I discovered the Rose Festival when I got into town.
Okay. Right on. Yeah, one of my questions was, like, before you started working for the Rose Festival, did you have a favorite event or something that, like, memories of going to the Rose Festival before you started working there?
Well, the Grand Floral Parade,
we
call it the Spirit Mountain Casino Grand Floral Parade now, but that was my first exposure to the Rose Festival. My wife and I... not too long after we got into town, of course, we had heard about the festival. It does tend to take over everything when it's on. And so we decided that we would come downtown and check out the Grand Floral Parade. And we went down to the only place that we knew about it, which was the Multnomah County Library on 10th Avenue, and found a way up onto the steps there and managed to watch the parade go by. So that was my first exposure, and it was well before I started working for the festival. I didn't actually even imagine I'd be working for the festival at that time. So it was kind of neat. I think at the time, if I remember right, there was this Statue of Liberty float, and they had to keep lowering it as they came up to the power lines at the intersections. And so that was kind of cool, this big Statue of Liberty thing, and then all of a sudden they would just tilt forward, go all the way down, kind of face plant at the front of the float, go underneath the wires, and then come nice, gracefully come back up again.
Well, then, how did you start working for the Rose Festival Foundation?
Well, my previous career was in television broadcast and production. And so I was kind of a TV geek and got a job with Coin TV at the time that they were also partnering with the Portland Rose Festival to do television broadcasts. And my particular area of profession at that time was as a producer or director for television production. And so I got involved with the production of the television broadcast and assisting with that. And so I worked on that for a few years, and I met Marilyn Clint, who is the current chief operating officer at the Rose Festival. And so she and I, had a professional relationship. I was at the TV station, she's with the festival. And so we kind of knew each other through that, and worked on it a couple of years. Then I switched over to when they were actually broadcasting the Queen's Coronation the day before festival started. They don't do that anymore. It's a flip around now. But at that time, so Coin was carrying the full 1 hour live broadcast of the Queen's Coronation. And I was involved with the producing and directing of that specific show, which we made some changes on that show, got some attention for it. Marilyn was really pleased with that. And so when I kind of hit the ceiling there, not too long after that, at TV stations, that's when they started really cutting down and trimming staff back. And so I was laid off from that. I checked in with the Rose Festival and decided to go back to school and up my status, as it were, aiming towards a degree. And came down and kind of applied for a part-time job with the festival, I believe, sometime around that time, and it was around 2000. And had a great talk with Marilyn. She says, well, when you graduate from college, give me a call. So I did. And I did some part-time festival or event work on other things around the community, around the area. So I had a little bit of background in that going in, and so had a great interview with Marilyn again in 2006. She hired me as a seasonal employee for public relations management, and that's the position I hold today, 16 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Still hanging on to that. And one of the things that came into my lap was the treasure hunt. We knew that it had gone on. I remember when I was in town earlier how popular it was, and it was a really big thing, and everybody was always looking for that, the edition of the paper so they could get in there and get their clues and try to figure out what was going on. I knew there was a deeper hunting community, but I didn't know that much about it. So when it came back into my realm, if you will, it was introduced to me. I took the first phone call on it and talked to the person about it who was very much interested in getting it started again. And I got real interested in it myself, so I took it to the management. They said, "This is a good idea. I think this is a worthwhile thing." And so we started it back up again.
Yeah, well, we're so happy that you did. You got that ball rolling, and the person that contacted you about it, because like we were saying earlier, it's one of the most beloved events. Yeah, I mean, it's just a whole community-driven thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just it was gone for a few years, and so that was obviously before you had started with the Rose Festival yourself, but it came back in 2014, and it's continued to be a big hit. So we want to thank you for your efforts in bringing it back.
Well, it was a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I manage it from the festival point of view here, of course, and just kind of like I'm a game manager, I guess, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's fun to hear lots of the progress and how people are going, and if they're getting close or not, I don't know until I hear reports myself, but because I don't know exactly where it is each year.
Mm-hmm.
I have an idea and a proximity of where people should be looking, but I don't know exactly where it is until it's found, and I hear about it at that point in time. So it's exciting to kind of track along with that. And we have people in the office who like to pick up the clues and read about it. They don't hunt because we don't hunt.
Yeah, sure.
But we definitely follow along with it. And it's just one of those fun things to do. And I think that's the attraction. I think that's why the Oregonian was so interested in coming back into working with us on that, and partnering with us, is because they know it's fascinatingly interesting to a whole bunch of people, even if you're not hunting. It's just a fascinating event that happens.
Yeah, the thing I like about it most is I get to learn so much about my, the area I live in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're reading the clues and you read something that doesn't make any sense to you, you try to find the sense in that clue in your community. And that's, it's pretty amazing when I get to learn new things about, even if it's not in a certain park that, if we're not supposed to go to a park, I get to learn something about that park and learn something about that neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And it's just a huge and fun learning experience. And I know that people just thrive on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I appreciate about the Clue Writer, is that this person really is into history and does a lot of work on researching local history,
mm-hmm.
And makes connections. And I'm quite honestly, I don't get how they even figure out where to put the medallion in the first place and then tie all these clues back to it, or do they, just go through the clues at the beginning and say, well, then let's put the medallion over there. I have no idea how that works out. But
yeah, you don't know that process, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's fascinating to get touch on a lot of this local history stuff, especially when all of the explanations come out afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of my favorite parts, because then I look back and I go, oh, okay, that's what that meant. And it's like,
yeah, it's one of our favorite parts too, except for when we're like, oh man, I should have thought of that.
Yeah,
I wish that made sense to me.
I don't give it that much. For me, it's more like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, did you follow along the treasure hunt back in, say, the 80s and 90s?
No, I'd heard about it, just as an average citizen, and then I think I remember getting kind of into just following it as the newspapers came out at the time. But I wasn't really into it too much. It was more like just kind of a casual pick it up and go, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what that means, or. I was tempted a couple of times to try and figure it out, but I think when I did, it was so difficult that I just gave up on it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have been doing it since the 80s that still do it today. My best friend's mom introduced me to it. Her name's Pam, and my best friend Chris and I would go out with her in the late 90s and just look all over the place for the Medallion. And it's just a fun family event. And, I myself, I try to introduce as many people to it as I can, even though that's bringing like extra competition to me. That doesn't matter as much. It's just, if I'm good enough to find the treasure, then I'm good enough to find the treasure. If it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't meant to be. I'd like to have as many people enjoy it as possible.
Well, it was a real treat meeting, speaking of history, meeting those two ladies who found it last year. And, they were repeat winners from, I don't remember what their history was much earlier, but
yeah, Gloria and Aaron,
but,
amazing.
They had a lot of good stories about them just hunting together and always, kind of playing off of each other. And, and it sounds like really, all the hunters that I've heard about and members of your group and the Facebook groups that I pay attention to, everybody's really good about following these clues, and it's just a matter of being at the right place at the right time. Even if they do lock themselves out of the car.
Yeah, touche.
I know someone that did that once.
Yeah, that was back before.
But it comes down to that, doesn't it? I mean, because when you found it, you were literally in the right place at the right time.
Yep, it just something clicked. I knew exactly what it meant before anybody else. That's sometimes it's a split decision, a split second thing, and that's all it takes. So, yeah, it was pretty amazing. That was it's one of the top 10 moments of my life when I found the Medallion. So, for sure. All right. Yeah. So, do you know about the process? You touched on it a little bit, but do you know anything about the process of like how the clue writer?
How long
how long they work on it before they're ready with the clues, or is it just something that they're just working on all year?
I'm under the impression that this is something that's kind of a year-long thing. I hear about it, I touch base with the clue writer at the beginning of the year, and there's usually some kind of flickering in the back of the mind where they might want to go with it. And they're usually, every time I talk to the clue writer, they're usually thinking of something ahead. And I think that this clue writer in particular thinks about locations that are interesting in the area that they can draw on a lot of historical points of view. And so, I think this is a longer process for the clue writer, but I think the actual clue writing probably starts a few months ahead. I'm pretty sure I had some communication. Well, it's been a while since I had communication because we communicate over a secure channel that the clue writer doesn't check on often. Everybody has another life. And anyway, I usually check in, and I know that for this year, as a matter of fact, the clue writer is probably done with all of the clues for the location that they're interested in, because that work was in progress at the beginning of the year.
Gotcha.
So it's the clue writer that chooses the Medallion location, then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, and like I said, that's that person's. He's the only person that knows where that is until somebody finds it.
That's neat. That's when I just think about that, because that person also is the one hiding the medallion, I'm sure. So it's just, that must be a magical moment, going up and placing it and saying, someday in the not too distant future, somebody's going to piece together all these clues that I've, tried to fool everybody with, or, just try to, it's just got to be a magical moment. Placing it there and saying, "See you later, Medallion." Someone's going to find you real soon.
Like a 007 moment.
Yeah, almost, right?
Yeah. I can imagine they'd probably even love to have like a secret camera hidden someplace,
Oh, yeah. That'd be killer.
Watch people walk by.
Oh, man.
Until somebody turns around and zeroes in. Yeah. Because you're right. The person, just like I do, then we just sit back and try to follow the social commentary, and and see if anybody, is saying anything. And of course, the hunters, they'll talk about it for a while at the beginning, but then things get kind of quiet as we
Yeah.
get down towards the end of the clues there, and all of a sudden, you're on pins and needles because did somebody find it? Yeah, they don't know. They're not talking.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So when the year that I found it back in 2016, I would observe a lot of people chatting on these Facebook groups and what about the clues, and I didn't really participate. But the day before the last clue came out, I had posted everything I had. I just like dumped everything because I was like, well, if I don't find it, I want somebody to find it. I want if anything I can provide helps, then great. But and then the next year, since I was like kind of like a winner and people knew who I was, I was a lot more active, and that it took that to get me more active. But there's so many people out there in these groups right now that are just active from the get go and so helpful, and it's really heartwarming to me watching the community, because a lot of people are selfless about sharing what they've learned. Last year we knew pretty quickly after the Waterhouse clue came out that was what that clue meant, and everybody went to the park, and still nobody found it, obviously, but people were quick to share that, and it was pretty amazing that they didn't just say, oh, I'm going to keep that for myself. But I know a lot of people ended up figuring it out independently as well, but it's heartwarming that people are able to just share that kind of stuff openly and not just hoard it for themselves.
But still, there's that, I gotta be the one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I gotta be the one.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's an exclusive club, So not very many winners.
It's a classic treasure hunter, trait, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a consideration to expand the 5-county search area?
There was some discussion about that last year, as a matter of fact, because I think there's an anniversary coming up, or heard something about sorry. But there was some discussion about that.
Interesting.
Because the hunt has been going on for a period of time. Not counting the down years, but the total anniversary of the hunt's been, I'm not sure if I got the correct.
Is it getting to 30 now?
30 years or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we did have a discussion about that because we have the 5 counties and trying something like that. And I actually approached the Oregonian about their thoughts on it, and they've been cutting back their resources for years now. And that was just something they couldn't fathom, trying to carry, like 5 counties, 5 different sets of clues, and all that. It was just not logistical probable to do that.
Sounds like there could have been 5 hunts. That would have been pretty neat.
Yeah, that could have been kind of cool, but again, it just was beyond our resources to be able to handle all that. And we're talking about 5 medallions, and we have a nice arrangement with the person that produces our medallions, and it's a delicate relationship based on other trades that we do with them. And so to ask for more would have kind of knocked that off balance a bit.
That's cool.
But it was an interesting thought, and we danced around with it for a little bit, but no.
So has there been any consideration, I guess, then in making the search area smaller? Like even like removing a county?
Or 2?
No, there hasn't been any talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, because
this is kind of the trying to stay with the traditional approach as much as possible. But no, that's not a bad thought.
No, it's a bad thought.
Well, I don't know.
Don't the clues kind of do that for you anyway?
Yeah,
they do. Typically. But like when if I were to like be working on the clues and I live in Vancouver, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I have to go out to the western end of Yamhill County for this. That's a long ways to go every day. But I would do it.
But on the flip side, you're very happy when it lands in your county.
Yeah.
And we really don't want you to delete Clark County. So
Right. Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it did land there a couple years ago.
I know it. Yeah, what's crazy? So, little aside here. Deidre and I, after I found the medallion in 2016, we were at Fort Vancouver for the 4th of July event, a month later. And we said, oh man, I bet we can make a killer treasure hunt in this area. And we went and grabbed a whole bunch of flyers from like the Pearson Air Museum and up in the visitor center. And we just got every piece of information we can get. And we're like, we're gonna hide something here. We're gonna be treasure people. We're gonna do it. And so we researched it up and down and left and right. And then lo and behold, that's where the medallion was the next year. It was crazy.
Yeah. That was a crazy experience up there. We found out that it's probably, strategically speaking, not a good idea to place a hunt down in the middle of another hunt. You have a tendency to kind of get things messed up a little bit.
You're talking about the getting down to the courthouse to look at that piece of art?
No, I'm talking about the Clark County hunt. When we'd found out through somebody that there was another hunt going on there for some decorated rocks or something.
Oh, but that was everywhere, I think.
Yeah, that was something that was happening, which caused people to go out and kind of dig around and look underneath things and in things and around things, and then we'd realized pretty quickly that maybe that's not a good idea in the future, or definitely look and research and make sure that you're not putting this down in the middle of a place where people are already scrounging around on their hands and he's looking for stuff.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I thought you were going to talk about that clue that sent, like, people were searching in Portland or in Vancouver at the Fort Vancouver area already, and then there was a clue that sent people back to Portland to look at this other clue, and we were like, what? Like, everybody was so confused. Like,
so confused.
Yeah. That was the point.
Yeah.
It was to kind of throw people off. It was a destination clue.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It was, we discussed, what would it be like if, people had to go somewhere and pick up the next clue or pick up another clue rather than get it always on in the newspaper.
Yeah.
And the confusion that started kind of blew that experiment away real quick.
It was fun.
It was interesting.
Yeah, I had somebody send me they went to the courthouse, sent me a message that said, I think this is what they were talking about. Look, it has the logo right there. And, not very many people went and checked that out. So it was pretty unique. And hey, you got to try it.
It's a good idea. It really is. It's just when you're used to this very specific pattern, it's hard as people to get out of our habits and step back and take a look at the big picture.
Probably should have given you a heads up on that. I still kind of like that idea, but maybe you're right. Maybe it's a good idea to say, okay, one of these clues is going to lead you to a place where you will find another clue. So be ready to keep your mind open and be ready to try that. Or maybe consider it as a bonus clue or something. You'll get a bonus clue if you can find go to this location, something like that.
Yeah, well, like just having it as a past clue opens my mind to that possibility. So I wouldn't necessarily need you to tell me that, because I'm already thinking, oh, this has happened in the past, so I should be looking for something like this in the future. It could happen.
Yeah, so. But you're an experienced hunter.
Yeah.
Now you've gone through that.
That's true.
Do you think that would work for the larger group?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody, we all go through and talk about past hunts.
Yeah. I don't know. Might be a poll option to put in one of the groups someday. Hey, would you like this?
Yeah.
Would this throw you off so bad?
One of the fun parts about it was that we partnered with the Calligraphy Club for that.
Yeah,
and
that was
so
cool.
They were in on it. They were in on the whole hunt thing, and they really were tickled about that. They really enjoyed that because it brought some eyes down to their calligraphy exhibit.
Yeah, and their stuff was beautiful too. So. Yeah, that's cool.
They do great stuff, and the person that did that particular one was really fascinated by it and was interested in knowing how well that was going to work, and if people were doing that or not. So it's pulling in, like I said, pulling in the communities together for different reasons. In this case, we were able to bring a whole unique group of calligraphy artists involved into this treasure hunt.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the whole point of the whole Rose Festival, right? So just bringing everybody together.
Exactly.
So, that's awesome.
You can't, that is probably the mostest thing you could say about the festival.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I love the festival. I've been going since I was a kid. My family moved to the area when I was 10 years old, and I'm pretty sure that summer we went to the Rose Festival, and I think the earliest memory I have of it is there was like a big double Ferris wheel in the city fair area. And I've never seen it since. And I thought it was amazing looking, and I never went on it. But yeah, I don't know. That's the earliest memory I have of it.
Yeah. So. Interesting, the rides that come and go.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So let me see here. All right. So how nervous is your team that the medallion might be found on day 1, day 2 of the hunt, or maybe even found by accident?
Well, it has been found by accident in the past, and that's always a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
You could even say that the winner, that guy who won in Newburgh, found it by accident, because
Brian,
he happened to be right next to his house,
Mm-hmm.
and so when that clue popped in, but we're not normally too worried about early clues giving away stuff. Because in talking with the clue writer, that's one of their preferences is to start broad and narrow the field. And so, for the first, 4 or 5 clues, we're kind of broad in referencing. And so you're probably, I don't know, by 4 or 5, you're probably down to the county that it's in. But we're not terribly worried that it's going to be located immediately in that first set of clues.
Yeah.
The clue writer does get obviously down towards the end. The last, what did we do? 14 clues.
Mm-hmm.
Down around 14 gets real obvious about where it is.
Yeah.
I think there was like 16 clues last year.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes we look at it, and if people aren't cluing in fast enough, then we do exercise the option to offer more clues. We want it to be found.
Of course.
We want it to be found by a hunter.
Yeah.
We don't want to go back out there and pick it up.
That'd be sad.
That would be sad. Yeah, there's a treasure hunt we're working on right now that is because we do treasure hunting kind of all over the world. Really, we look at these treasure hunts all over the place, and there's a treasure hidden in Maine that has an expiration date of like if nobody finds it by
November.
In this November. It's been going on since 2007, but the deadline is this November, and nobody's found it. And in this book that has all these clues in it, one of the last things says, if nobody finds it, we're going to donate the prize to charity or whatever. And it's like, man, do they really want to do that? They really want somebody to find it. Maybe they need to give another clue or something.
Yeah.
Well, we were going to go out there in October, and, everybody's grounded right now.
No, not October. We were going to go out there this month in May.
In May. I don't know why I said October.
Deidre and I had a trip planned to Oak Island, Nova Scotia, and we were going to go to search for this treasure in Maine.
You're going to Oak Island? No kidding.
We were.
It got canceled because of this.
That's pretty famous.
Yeah, well, we actually have a whole podcast about the Curse of Oak Island. That's like we were the first recap podcast about that TV show. We just released an interview with the archaeologist today.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, we
that Oak Island, boy, that's got some fascinating history to it.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, sorry you guys had to cancel your trips. I know we're still hanging on, hoping that there'll be a Rose Festival.
Yeah.
This year.
Good.
Yeah, we were going to ask you about that.
If all powers allow, if it's appropriate, it's we're right now it hasn't been shut down.
Mm-hmm.
End of the year, fall has not been shut down by any governments or officials. So the door is still technically open, and so we're going ahead and thinking and planning for what could happen if we did. But if it turns out that it's just not going to be an appropriate move, then we'll probably have to wait until next year, which means that we have a medallion made for 2020 that either is going to go unfound, or we may do a double hunt, or we may just carry this over until the next year. And it'll be the 2020 Rose Vision medallion that people will be looking for.
Well, even if it has to wait until like November, December, I know there's crazy people over in St. Paul, Minnesota that do treasure hunting for a medallion in the snow. So
that's how we found out about it. That's where we got That's where we got our inspiration.
Nice.
But the Rose Festival, outdoor event in Oregon at that time, we're not going to realistically see that working very well. Parades. You really got to catch the weather.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
I used to work on events in October, and maybe one of them, the years that I worked on it, was okay weather, and the rest was just forget about it. You're not going to get a lot of people. You're not going to earn a lot of revenue through rides and attractions, and the parades would be compromised.
Yeah, in my brain, I wasn't even considering that stuff. I was just considering the treasure hunt, and that's it. So, yeah, right. Good point. Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
But, it's all part of the big deal, our big picture. But, yeah, it would be great. And I'm going to be lobbying for some kind of a treasure hunt this year. But, there are higher priorities, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously, keeping people healthy and safe is the biggest one.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, fingers crossed, right? So
it'll come back.
Oh, yeah. Well,
everybody will. We all will.
Good. Yeah.
Group hug someday.
That's right. Someday.
Who's the sponsor for this year's Rose Festival Medallion Hunt?
Well, we're very pleased to be in partnership with the Spirit Mountain Casino at Grand Ronde. They provide some support and prizes in the way of prizes. And then, of course, in partnership with the Oregonian and Oregon Live, they provide the publicity and promotional support for the Medallion as well. But it's primarily a Rose Festival event, so the prize does come from the Rose Festival.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's great. So we did reach out to a couple people for some questions, and I'm going to just rattle some of them off here. So Melanie would like to know if you have considered that St. Paul model. I know that it gave you the inspiration, or the Rose Festival, the inspiration for doing the hunt in the first place, but the prize model is having you have to register for the event, and then you pay a fee that increases the overall prize pool. And if you find it without registering, I think you get a smaller prize.
We haven't really talked too much about that. We did initially at the very beginning, because I think if you remember right, the hunt before it was brought back had a registration thing going with it, and so that if you were registered, you would get extra prize money or something like that. And we decided that it was just too complicated for us to try and manage at this point in time to had register people and keep track of all that, and then extra bonuses and etc.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the money comes from the festival itself, so we don't have a sponsor that forwards the prize money for us.
Gotcha.
So we just decided that just to keep it simple right now. It's possible that we could consider expanding, but obviously, this year is thrown a big hiccup in everybody's planning, so we don't know, but it's always a possibility.
Okay. Yeah, it might be some crowdfunding option or something. Who knows, right? So, all right. So we have a question from Roxanne, and she's curious about last year's hunt and what did the clue writer think, if you know this, what did the clue writer think when the medallion had not been found after the 14th day and the 15th day? Did they think that it was just too hard, or that the clues were too cryptic? And were those clues already written, or were they written after the fact?
Yeah, there was. It was kind of a little bit of each. Always anticipating that might have to come up with extra clues. So part of our planning every year is to think about what happens if it's not found after this clue, and etc. So the clue writer does prepare a little bit for that.
Okay.
And then it really kind of comes down to a decision by myself and the clue writer, and we discuss how is the game going. Is this working? We're listening to the chat and paying attention, and it doesn't seem to be working well. I think the clue writer felt that maybe the clues were a little more challenging this last time around, and you never know. Some people are real good about just cluing in right away on some things, and sometimes they're not. And so it was a combination, of being ready for something like that in the first place, and then willing to react and go ahead. But the clue writer definitely had some thoughts in mind about how to carry it on if needed. And so It was. We just decided let's go for that, and like I said, it's more important that somebody finds this.
Yeah.
So we discussed that, and it was kind of we made that decision as we were going through it.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that last year, going, to clue number 15 and 16, it's crazy because everybody walked right by it. Like, some people walked by it dozens of times, like it was right under everybody's noses. We just didn't, peek over the edge there to find it. So, yeah, that was a crazy experience.
It was a mind-bending hunt for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that kind of always the case, though, that people are always walking by it?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I remember, who is it? Marvin?
Marvin.
Mm-hmm. I believe, who walked by a couple clues a few times, or a couple
a
few times that somebody else had found 15 feet in front of him or behind him, or something like that.
Yeah.
It happens.
So,
yeah.
There is a man right there. There's a gentleman right there who is deserving.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Marvin, I think, has been within like in the area of where the medallion was hidden more times than he cares to count, or something like that. Isn't that what he said?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he's probably historically walked by the medallion more than anybody.
Probably. Yeah. I know that when it was in Fort Vancouver, because he lives in Clark County as well. He was looking in that field. I remember him being down there, I think, with a couple other guys, just looking just everywhere, and it was just next to that box, and they must have just missed it or whatever. Mm-hmm. But myself and Deidre, we knew it was in Clark County or at Fort Vancouver for I think we were there for like 10 days straight, and we walked by it like probably 100 times. It's just it is what it is.
Yep.
Only one person gets to find these things, and
that's the joy of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Good stuff.
So our next couple questions are from Glory, and one of them is, what is the top thing that the clue writer would like us to know, or that you think the clue writer, I guess, would like us to know?
I suppose how to research local history. That's because the clue writer is doing this. Digging into the history of this area, not only generally speaking, but the specific area too. Obviously, there be people there. So I think that's probably the top thing is enjoy your trips through history and pay attention to everything. Because that's the one thing I get out of the clue writer is their joy of just going through the history and pulling up stuff and obscure stuff. And so, some of my conversations with this person was just, fascinating little tidbits of things that we're able to dig up,
Yeah.
I'm into that too. I'm kind of a history geek, an archaeological geek. And so, discovering new little things and how things are connected to other things. That's the fun. That's really fun for me too.
Well, fantastic.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Any ideas on how, say, like the hunting community can help make the medallion hunt more robust of an experience for the foundation?
That's a good question. I open to suggestions, open to ideas, open to thoughts. Always willing to listen to concepts. Right now, I don't really have a good answer for that because we enjoy what it is. It certainly is. It'd be great if maybe somebody could come up with with a big buck sponsor.
Okay,
that would be wonderful to make it like many thousands of dollar prize. Wouldn't that excite the community?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'd say I'm just we're an open book and we'll love to hear ideas. We take all kinds of ideas, as you imagine, often here. Some of them aren't as flattering maybe as we'd like, but yeah, if people got some ideas on how to make this a more interesting hunt, I'd certainly be willing to listen to it.
And that just goes to show how much of a community thing this is. It's all for the community by people that are in the community, and we can all
for the people, by the people.
There you
go.
Well,
this is where the clue writer comes from.
Good. Yeah, it's perfect.
Clue writer was an avid hunter too.
Oh, good.
Oh, fantastic.
It's good to know. Yep.
If not anymore.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I would hope.
Yeah. That was another one of our agreements is that I insisted that the clue writer does not go out in the field hunting.
All right. Yeah. Well, that makes complete sense, right? They'd kind of have an unfair advantage.
Yeah, they would, wouldn't they? A little bit.
All right. So now we have some questions from Laura. She's the one that found the medallion back in 2019, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
is she the game person?
Yeah, the game person. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Escape room designer. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, she's cool. So a couple questions from her is, let's see here. How has the internet changed the way the hunt works?
Well, I think you'd have to tell me that. We take advantage of the internet as much as we can, of course, by publishing as much information out there. I don't know. How does it change for you guys? Usually there was people waiting at odd time of the morning for the paper to come out.
Yep.
And then jumping on the clue and rushing out to it.
I
imagine it has to make it a lot easier. You guys can check out the clues right at home and then keep that information with you on a little device or something like that. So I would think that would make the hunt a little bit easier, but I'm not sure how all that much because you still got to do all the work.
There's still a lot of work to do. That's right. Like it does make it easier for getting the clues though, obviously, because literally I was standing in a spot, refreshing my phone, refreshing the Oregon Live webpage, and I saw the clue pop up and I was 200 feet from the spot. And I got in my car, drove over there, left it running, left the keys in there, walked myself out. But all that ultimately led me to, getting the medallion seconds after the clue came out, right? So back when my best friend's mom was really into it in the 80s and the 90s, she'd have to get the clues from the newspaper. And the only way to do that is, how do you get the clues first in that case? You have to be there at the newspaper when it gets out the door.
Waiting.
Yeah, and so I know that's what I think people in Marvin's inner circle would do, and they would go and just wait for that clue. They would get on a payphone, call somebody, say, "Hey, get out to this area and start looking." But we don't have to do that anymore, which is quite convenient.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There's the answer to your question. Yeah.
I imagine it probably makes it hard on the clue writer because all this information is readily available at our fingertips.
I don't imagine it being different because the clue writer's already done doing all the work ahead of time. So I think, if anything, it makes it easier for the clue writer to kind of track things as well and to see how things are working.
Yeah. Well, if they're
real-time tracking.
That's true.
For me, what I'd probably do is I would write the clues and then I work them backwards to see, okay, so if I put this into Google, is this going to give away my answer? And if it doesn't, that's a good thing. If it does, then I might want to rethink how I'm phrasing these things. So I guess it's a good tool for them too, because they can make sure it's not so easy.
Right. Right. And it's real-time tracking. And that's, I think for me in particular, as the game master, it's important that I'm able to track how people are playing and how things are working. And like I said, that's what led to some decision making last year about clues.
Yeah. Well, that kind of rolls into this next question about, for you, you've already talked about it a bit, but what's the most thing for you about watching the hunt play out? And do you have any favorite moments over the past, since it kind of relaunched?
Well, I enjoy watching it play out, and again, it's all through social chatter, so that's as much as I can get out of it. Probably the most enjoyable moment for me is getting that call from the person who found it. Yeah. And then meeting that person for the first time and hearing and kind of being firsthand witness to the excitement and what they went through. And I loved your story. That's one of the best all-time stories for the treasure hunt so far for me here. Yeah. The girls last year that won it for the second time in a row. Yeah. That was a wonderful story too. So that's my favorite part is when I get the call from the person who found it.
Yeah, pretty special.
I get to meet that person for the first time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a special moment for the finder too.
Yeah.
You know, and I do want to apologize that I messed up the plans for the Grand Polo Parade that day, because that was one of the things the winner got to do, was be in the Grand Polo Parade on that day, and it just didn't happen.
No, we timed that all wrong. And that was the whole Grand Polo Parade ride thing was kind of a carryover that we hadn't paid that much attention to be honest with you.
Oh, okay.
And so that's it was something that was kind of a passé sort of thought in the first place because of the timing issues. And that's why we don't do that anymore.
Oh, it was fun.
Logistically, we couldn't work that out. You know,
Gotcha.
It was pretty clear.
So, yeah, logistically, I could see that being hard. But what about someday getting a float together with all the past winners?
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Could that be a thing?
It would have to be by invitation, and we'd have to trust that people, because we don't have actually any good records of that, other than the most recent. We got records of the most recent stuff since 14, but
there's people that have everybody. There's lists that I've seen floating around that have everybody. Not like contact information, but most people know who everybody is, and has a way to contact them. So I don't know.
Well, you know, that's something to be considered. We're always looking for themes and great ideas for floats. So that's, it's definitely something that could be on the table there.
Right on. Well, I'm game.
All right, you heard it, past winners. We need your info.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, I would love to have, if somebody does have a list of all the past winners or a pretty decent list of that, I would love to have that information available.
Yeah.
That's just, we just don't have any good records of that. And if there's anybody that has information on past winners that can share that, it's richj@rosefestival.org. Just send me a note.
Perfect.
Love to gather that information together in one place.
That would be cool.
Maybe even put it on our website, as here's the list of all the winners, etc.
That would be a lot of fun to see, something like that. That'd be really neat.
Yeah.
I know that, like, people have made maps that have like pinpoints where all the medallions have been hidden, and so maybe you haven't seen that kind of stuff, and so
I'd love to see that.
Yeah. Who was it? I think it was Lisa that had made something like that, where she has the list of like all the past winners. Maybe she'll probably listen to this. So Lisa, maybe you can share that with Rich, or post it again on the Facebook page.
Send it in.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
It's a call to arms, guys. Let's do it.
Yeah. Call to information.
That's right.
The pen is mightier than the sword here. We need all that information, but it would be extremely useful, and we would treasure it. Treasure the information.
Treasure information. Yeah. All right. So we're about to wrap up here, but I just want to ask: is there anything that you think that the Clue Writer or the Foundation itself wish we knew about the hunt, and maybe not easy to communicate just in like a textual form, like something that it's easier to say? Do you have anything like that?
No golden words here, I'm afraid.
Okay.
It's keep up with what you're doing. I mean, it's the hunters that brought this back, and it's the hunters that keep it alive, and inspire people like the Oregonian to continue to participate in it, and certainly inspire the Rose Festival to know that we have such an amazing community of treasure hunters. And, it's all part of the greater Rose Festival family, like you says. This is just part of the incredible diversity that the Rose Festival touches on in people around here, because we have a remarkable population of people in this area, Pacific Northwest. We're blessed with the people that come from all over the world and come from all over the country to live here, and it's reflected in everything that goes on. But the hunters are just one more unique an amazing group of people that make up the Greater Rose Festival family. So thank you very much for participating and keeping this hunt alive.
Yeah, well, it's easy to do when it's fun. It's easy to keep going and be interested and involved when people look forward to the treasure hunt like all year long. Like they count down the days. We're sad that it's not a part of this. We're sad we're not going to be able to do it in a month from now. Like a month from now, as we're talking, would be when we're out, doing our first searches. And it's a bummer that we don't get to do that right away. But it's, as long as we have the hope that it's coming back, and you've given us that hope today, that that'll keep us going, and it'll keep us coming back. And we just love this event. You know, we love the whole World's Festival, but this event has a special place in our hearts.
Well, when we're able to call an event out again for public participation, this will be there.
Perfect. Wonderful. All right. So did we miss anything? Is there anything else you want to touch on before we go?
No, I think we covered a lot.
Yeah.
Great talking with you guys, and always a pleasure to chat with you, Deidre.
Yes.
Along with Dustin, and keep up the good work and keep the hunt alive.
Oh, we sure will. And
yes.
We're going to do everything we can to tell everybody in the area about it, because it's the best family-friendly event that I could think of. So we thank you guys, the Rose Festival. We thank you for your time, and we just thank everybody that participates every year in the hunt.
Great. Well, we're looking forward to it. We'll be back.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we'll go ahead and let you go here. But again, we really, really, really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to chat with us.
You bet, Deidre. It's a pleasure. Okay,
right.
You guys take care. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks for your time, Rich. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.